Alright, so we're going to build a new battery pack for the submarine. In fact, two of them, the 4.8 volt battery pack and this, which is the 7.2. So I'm starting with some nice C cells that I bought off eBay, and I'm using my 70-watt soldering iron here, which is really pretty hot, but I'm doing that so that I can get the heat to the battery quickly and then get it off. And I always find the thin solder is fantastic, and as soon as it becomes molten and sticks, I just take that off and leave it. I've just got to get the heat into that flat part of the back of the battery, and bang, that's done. So I purchased these little plates off eBay for joining batteries, and I'm now just sticking those on to the C cells and then joining them together, as you can see here, and till finally I've got a nice little conga line of 6 C cells, which is going to give me 7.2 volts. And so I've put them all together, and I should explain that my old battery pack seems to be getting tired, and it doesn't last that long, so my plan is, when I go out somewhere, to use 2 battery packs from now on, so that I've got plenty of life in the submarine, and I can bring it in and replace the batteries. So this heat shrink tube, I had to buy this specially from an electrical shop to get it that thick. You can't just from an industrial shop, because it's pretty hard to get it to cover the C cells. Now I'm using my blowtorch on here, my torch. You might think this is a bit risky. I'm not going to suggest that you should do this, but I keep the flame well away, and you can see the grooves now appearing in the black as it shrinks and starts to pull in tightly around the batteries. So that's basically how I do that, and I'm being pretty careful with all of that, and the result is that's nice. Now you could use a hairdryer, you could use any number of things. I just get a little bit impatient, so off I go. So this is the Plasti Dip, and basically I've used Plasti Dip on all of these batteries, and I'll dip each end of that stick at least 4 times to get a really good layer. And now I have to use the 4 AA batteries. These are 2.5 amp hour Eneloop batteries. They're really very nice. And so I'm going to put these into the bow. Now this is a particular shape. You can see I've used some Glad Wrap for obvious reasons, and I'm putting some epoxy on, and the notion is that's just going to go dry, and if it soaks through onto the Glad Wrap, that's completely fine. But this is a very simple way of making a purpose-built little pack. Very, very easy to do it. Once I've got that nicely in place, I'll leave that for a fair while. Now I've got these waterproof connectors, and I've got other videos about these as well. Very cheap. You buy them off eBay and they work extraordinarily well. And this obviously needs waterproof connectors. And so what I'm doing here now is obviously using these tabs just to connect up these batteries. Just getting that solder liquid and then just pushing the tab down. Minimum amount of time. I don't want to overheat the batteries at any time. On go the wires. And what I do with this, once I've got the other wire on, is use some hot glue. It's remarkably easy to do. This whole process doesn't really take all that long. Now this is my little drawing I keep, because I've got a few of these connectors and I have to remember which way to put them round. But once I've got them on, as you can see, I'm putting epoxy into the tail end of them to seal them off. That's what makes them work. So now that's the first coat of Plasti Dip, and there'll probably be about 4 in all. Okay, so we've made our battery sets up. Interesting thing is that the new C cells, which are 4 milliamp hours, are actually heavier than the 5.2 milliamp hour batteries, which gives me the impression that you throw out the notion of what are the milliamp hours. I think the heavier ones would last longer. the extra bunch of 4 AA's are Eneloop batteries, and they're all 2.5 milliamp hours each. So these are the ones I'm going to use from now on, and I'll use the other ones as a backup, but these are heavier once again. So consequently, the long stick battery is 506 grams, whereas the previous battery was 460. So in fact we now have 46 grams extra weight. The AA pack with the 2.5 amp hour AA cells is 131 grams, whereas the previous one was 121, which means we've got 10 extra grams. So what I have to do is go into the U-boat and find 56 grams of lead and pull it out, and then it will work with these two. But then what do I do with my other batteries? So what I'm going to do with my other batteries is to add this amount of lead to both of them, and then everything should be fine. Let's do it. This is the 5.2 milliamp hours. This needs an extra 46 grams of weight to be added to it. That's it, perfect. Okay, so I'm just going to add the lead. In fact, I cut some strips a bit more thinly and just taped them on to those battery packs. But that's really all there is to it. Once the Plasti Dip has done its thing, we've got the whole thing wired up now. It's all sealed. That can go in the water, and I'm pretty happy with the whole thing in the end. It's really quite nice. So my plan, as I said, is I'm going to use the 2.5 milliamp hour AA batteries, and I can replace them if I need to, and I'm going to use the new pack, which is the heavier pack in the boat for the main power. So that's it. Hope you found that useful.